What's poppin'? My name is Richie, and today I want to show you how you can build your own modern houses in Fortnite Creative. Not only I'll show you how to build this one, but I'll give you some tips and tricks along the way, how I built these houses, and maybe you can learn something from this, and hopefully you can also enjoy this episode, because I kind of want to do something new, and this is definitely something new. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing that I always do is I kind of sketch out the things that I want to build in Fortnite Creative with the normal build materials. That means the wood, the stone and stuff like that. So you can see here I built basically the modern house that you saw in the beginning, but I fully built it out of these easy to build materials, and you can also edit them so you can have like little windows and stuff like that. Super easy to sketch out stuff. And the next thing that I did is start putting in some materials. Obviously, I do mainly everything in grid snap here, so it's easier for me to kind of figure out which things work and which not. So the next thing that I did here was doing the fun stuff first, which was the pool for me. And I tried doing 3 different types of water here, but I figured out that the one that is the newest one looks the best with this one. It has one downside, that it actually like kind of has a reflection in it. So I figured out using white materials would look the best here. And you can also see that the white and the water blends pretty cool with each other, so they look really nice. So the next thing that I just did here is just basically sketch out everything with the whites here. You can see that obviously the entire build is mainly built out of one block, which is this white cube from the cube gallery. I didn't use anything from the primitive shape gallery because first of all, they're very tiny and you cannot scale them up as big, and it's a lot easier to work with the 2 cubes that come from the cube gallery than just with the primitive shape ones. After I was done sketching out the floor, I started building the actual building here, and for this one, same thing, I used only the cube and I only used the one glass from the glass gallery. Obviously, the new glass gallery is amazing and the modern houses will look a lot better now. But there's one downside to the glasses in that they're very thick, so I highly recommend you make them as slim as possible. Not in the wide, you can scale them however wide or high you want, but make them as thin as possible so you don't have to like build crazy thick layers of glass. Also, one thing which you guys probably noticed is that I don't finish a lot of the stuff that I was working on. So you can see here that I basically started building a few things from the floor, then I went back to the building, and then I also went back to the floor again. And that's one thing that I always do, is because I get quickly bored when I do something repetitive, so I basically stop doing something repetitive, then go to something else which makes a lot more fun in that second, and then if I see something or there's a problem with that, I build the repetitive part again. So for example, the floor is very repetitive and you have to just place a bunch of like cubes, and that's obviously very annoying and it's not really fun to do, but it has to be done. So I build a little bit of the floor, then I go back to the fun part, building the building, and then I go back to building the floor. Alright, so the next thing that I did here, because I could not see this white anymore, I was like, okay, I have to put a little bit of green in here, and I started building a little bit of props in there, which usually you don't want to do because you probably want to change that in the end. But since I was only using like a big grass chunks and like a few palm trees, I was okay with that, and it added a little bit to my vision of not seeing this whole white building the entire time. Obviously in the end we add a lot more color to it, but make sure if you build something like this that you always have some contrast in it and don't only want to use one color something. Mainly want to stick to one color for the main building, which I was obviously doing white here, but you always need some contrast in your buildings so they don't look that plain. So you can also see that I removed a bunch of the roof here, and the reason why I did that is because I think it looked a little bit blank and I really want to have some artistic freedom in there. So I basically did a little bit of artistic stuff there. Obviously that had no purpose whatsoever, it just looks cool. And that is something that you can always do, right? You can build like a blank pattern, and then in the end, if you don't like it, you can still change it up, but don't start out with something super fancy to make it harder on yourself. The next part was building the inside, because obviously there's a lot of windows sticking out, and as already said, the windows are pretty thick, and even though if you scale them in the tiniest bit possible, you have a good chance that they're still sticking out. So I built the inside here. Obviously had to split the room so I don't have just one giant hall. Built some stairs here. I just took the stairs that I built outside and moved them in because they look really nice and they're custom. Having a little bit of green inside can also always be very good and looks very like modern, especially if you use something from the agency prop gallery or anything from the top secret galleries. A lot of the stuff is built for these kind of modern houses, and yeah, also built some new flooring in here. Obviously I don't want it to have the whole white floor there. It was really annoying to look at, and I think the wooden floor here looks really nice and really modern. Also you can see there's a little like wiggling effect. If you have that in your maps, just make sure that you basically lift the ones that are wiggling, just in no bridge them and just lift them up just a tiny little bit, like barely seeing, so they are not interacting with each other and don't give this jiggle effect. So the main thing that I want to give to you guys here from this video is that you need to start building simple stuff and then advance from that. Don't start building crazy and like over the top things where you cannot connect anything to it and you don't know how to go further from that. Build simple and then add little details here and there, and then in the end it will look like a fancy build, and that is very important to understand. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you want to see more of these types of videos, and I will see you guys back in the next one. Bye.